without really thinking about long-term consequences. And I'm sure people that have been using generative AI, I don't know, in independent media to generate content for your site, has it gotten harder to write those things after using it for a year? Probably, for those people, I would wager. And that type of phenomena is only going to get worse. And what happens when we can't even think for ourselves anymore? Because stopping creating, not being able to write, eventually you're not going to be able to think without the help of this algorithm or whatever. And again, as I mentioned earlier, AI is prone to hallucinating, seeing realities that aren't there, and all sorts of things. And how deep could we get dragged into some sort of artificial illusion if we sort of outsource our thinking and our creativity to this type of entity? It's kind of funny because Schmidt and Kissinger argue that these hallucinated realities, AI seeing realities that humans can't observe, mean that the reality must be real because AI is so much more intelligent, so that we should believe, whatever it sees that's unobservable. And I don't know, maybe that could be true in some instances, but since there's no way to verify, do we really want to shape society around what could be hallucinations of some, human created machine just because, certain people that are powerful in society have an almost religious-like devotion to artificial intelligence? I don't think that makes any sense. When you engage in a creative act, what are you filling up or fulfilling, or what muscle, as you put it, are you using? I would argue it's your soul, right? If you just have AI make it, the person that's making it doesn't get the same type of feeling they get if they actually engaged in the act of making art themselves or with another human. So if we let our souls atrophy because we're not doing anything that, have been fulfilling human souls for thousands of years, what does that ultimately mean? It's interesting in that same Schmidt-Kissinger book, they basically say that AI taking over will lead to one of two consequences. One of them is that the peasants rise up and overthrow the elite. That's one scenario, and probably not the scenario that Schmidt and Kissinger want. And then the second scenario is that AI spawns the creation of a new religion. So out of those two allegedly inevitable scenarios per those people, obviously I think it's quite clear, if you're familiar with the backgrounds of Schmidt and Kissinger, the outcome they want is that it's a new religion. So we atrophy our souls and creativity, and that spark that makes us human, and outsource it to AI, and then it becomes a new religion. I mean, it's pretty crazy. It makes me think of the Greek myth of Narcissus, where he falls in love with his Narcissus, falls in love with his reflection. And I think it's that would definitely be a way that gets us to that post-human future, and it's something I think people should resist, because there's something important about humanity. There's obviously a reason that there's sort of this push to sort of snuff that out, and I think ultimately it leads to a world where humans are just easily controlled and essentially either harvested for data, harvested for energy, harvested for something, and not creators anymore. And it's up to everybody if they choose what path they choose to go down, whether they're going to go down the path of someone who creates and can manifest, and who can, actively do things and actively make decisions, have preferences, and do these things that ultimately are part of what defines humans, right? Or if they're going to go down the path of, I'm going to be lazy essentially and let these machines do everything for me. But then you become either not necessarily even part of the machine. You end up, instead of the machine serving you, you end up serving the machine.